My name is Evalis Valladares. I am currently a sophomore at the University of New Mexico. I'm working towards a major in psychology as well as a second major in Spanish. The purpose of this video is to explain how to translate a poem from Spanish to English, as well as the difficulties that you should be aware of before you begin to translate a poem yourself. The parts and materials that are needed for this procedure is a poem that you would like to translate. However, you have to notice that there are different types of Spanish. What I mean by that is, for example, there's Mexican Spanish as well as Spanish from Spain. I personally chose to translate a poem from a Mexican poet because that gives me the opportunity to better explain the poem as well as to truly understand the words he is using. The first step to translate a poem from Spanish to English is to choose a poem. The second step is to translate the poem word by word, so literal translation. The third step is to make sure that the sentence structure and the construction are correct. And finally, the fourth step is to make sure that the meaning of the poem is still there, because the meaning can be lost in translation. The way I began was by choosing a poem called Calle, and that translates to The Street by the author Octavio Paz. Octavio Paz Lozano was his full name. He was a Mexican poet who won a Nobel Prize in 1990. I first began by translating the poem word by word. For example, let's use the first line of the poem. In Spanish, it is Era una calle larga y silenciosa. When you translate it literally, it becomes it is a street long and silent. However, that is not correct. And this can lead to you saying something completely different from what you meant, as well as incorrect construction. So that is why, again, using the first line of the poem, we change the structure so it becomes it is a long and silent street. Now that is correct. I did this with each line of the poem. So you have to do this because when you're moving between languages, the translation is different. This is because the grammar and words of each language are different. Also, translating from one language to the other involves modifying sounds as well as patterns of rhythm that are used in poetry. Finally, you have to make sure that the meaning of the poem is still there, because there are no words that translate perfectly between languages, and for this reason, the meaning can change. There are several difficulties when translating between languages. For example, the structure and construction, as well as different types of Spanish. Like I said before, Spanish from Mexico is different from Spanish in Spain. I've spoken with people from Spain, and sometimes I don't understand words they're using because we don't use those words, or we have a different meaning to the words. And that is why I chose to translate a poem from a Mexican poet. I knew that I would understand the words he was using, and that would give me the opportunity to better explain this process. So far, I have only taken 2 Spanish classes towards my Spanish major, and we have not yet analyzed poetry or looked into any poets. This was a new experience for me, and I'm glad that I was able to share it with you. Thank you for watching.